All right, the live stream is going. Yo, if you're watching, this is a collabo. It's me, that indie comic book guy. I got Deon from.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's me, the real deal, Deon Don. Come from behind the scene podcast, and also I self-publish title page comics. What's going on, y'all?
That's what I'm talking about. Tonight we decided to hop on here. Uh, People that love when we did the Black comics. We decided to get on here and just talk. We don't do that enough in the industry. We want to talk about like comic books, pop culture, whatever comes to mind. We're gonna talk about it. We're not gonna be on here for long, so this is not a 3 hour stream. But hey, whatever we talk about, we talk about. So if you want to join in the conversation, hit us up in the chat. We're here for it.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So I got a question for you, man. So what
Uh
comics have you been hitting up for lately, man? What's making you go to the LCS, or what's making you go on Kickstarter and doing some pledges, man? What you been reading, man? What you been reading? What you been feeling?
Actually, believe it or not, I've been into this whole X-Men, Avengers, Eternals. What is it? AX. Oh my God, AXE crossover. I'm here
Really?
for it.
That
I
shit's
mean, they
good?
had an Eternal go up to Mars and kill like a million mutants, like just like
Hmm.
that in 1 hour.
So what? Oh
Yes.
shit.
You know, Marvel's been trying to really push the Eternals. I remember a few years back when they had copyright issues with the X-Men, they were trying to push the Inhumans. It didn't work. We got
Hell
that
no, that didn't
lousy
work.
television show that was trash. So now it's the Eternals time. The
hmm
movie, what? Let's back up. What did you think of the Eternals movie?
I thought it was overcomplicated. I thought it didn't have enough time to really go through with the idea and the premise. I
Mm.
thought it'd been better off with like a 6 episode Disney Plus series. Way too much to compact in a 3 hour film. So I don't mind the premise. I don't mind. I think it's all interesting. They went for something different. I just think the medium was wrong for the story they were trying to tell. So everything kind of crumbled a little bit in the middle to the end because it just you just need you need more time to breathe with thousands of years of history and backstory and things like that. Hard to really put that in a 3 hour film, but I think it was a misfire. Me personally, I didn't really enjoy it after thinking about it for a while. But I'll probably still check out the second one if they do it.
Do you
What?
think? And I agree with you. It was a misfire because they did try to force 1,000 years, and they did it badly into a 2.5 hour movie, however long it was. And they really did not set up a good antagonist for people to root for or root against in the
Mm-hmm.
story. And their
Yeah.
whole little plot twist was wasted. We saw it coming from a mile away.
Right. Yep.
But having said that, the Eternals have been around for decades. Do you think the powers that be, the House of Ideas, can turn the Eternals into a hit franchise?
On print or on film or
I'm
both
good
in
with either
general.
one.
Either one. Is it too late? Can they do it? That's a good question. I think the first film really kind of put a setback to it because if it's a hit, we get the Guardians of the Galaxy reaction. You know what I'm saying? We get the Ant-Man reaction where people are now fans of the property and they want to check out the comics. So I think the film did put a setback to it. On print, comic book fans are a little bit different. We can kind of disregard whatever happens on film and then we can dig on paper. If it's on paper and it's good, we'll check it out. So I don't think that's too much of a far fetch for them to do. I think on film, the impressions of the first film is going to have a little bit. They're going to make it difficult now to do a second one and have people more open to it per se. So I think it's more accomplishable on print at this point. To be honest with you.
Okay. What's up, Prime Time? We see you, Joe McPhee. Joe McPhee said in the chat, he's like, yo, they should have focused more on the Celestials. That was a big selling point. And
Mm.
now in the MCU, you have the Celestials sticking out of the planet. What are they going to do with that? Like, nobody's
Eh,
mentioned that. And
Nobody.
Thor, Doctor Strange, any of these TV shows, you have this space god hanging out of the planet, different limbs. Looks weird.
It
It's
looks
weird.
weird. And people thought that was Galactus. Well, the casual people, is that Galactus? Is that Galactus? Like, no, it's not. It's not Galactus. But that shit is huge. That scientifically, I think they should have scaled that thing a little differently because that thing, the way the arm and the head is like, yo, like thousands of people should have, like millions of people should have died. Like
It
that
should have
whole
messed up the planet.
should have
I
messed up the
agree.
whole planet. That's a whole crisis Thanos event right there. They try to put in for the end of the film with no consequences.
See,
Yeah.
my thing with let's start with the comics again. In order to make the Eternals a comic book hit,
Mm-hmm.
they do not have any standout characters design wise.
Mm.
Notice what I said, design wise, that really stick out. They have some cool characters, a lot of cool backstory and all that good stuff. But excuse me, beer. Design wise, they do not have any characters that really stick out. And I think that's one of the problems. In Humans, they had Black Bolt, they had Medusa, they had Lockjaw. They had a lot of characters that really stood out, and they just dropped the ball because they were in a rush to make the Inhumans the next big thing. And now look at the Eternals, where they have an opportunity, but like you said, the first movie they fumbled it. It's going to be hard to get the audience back in those seats.
Right, right. And you're absolutely right about the comic book designs. They're very blasé, and I hate I'm not a big fan of the Humans either. But Black Bolt, Medusa, Lockjaw, like you mentioned, those are very iconic looks, and I can pick them out from a crowd. I'm interested to see what those characters can do in like other people's property, just not enough to see in their own stuff. But the Eternals, I think they definitely knew they could use a redesign, a rebrand, a repackage on print, and get them some solo series, get them interacting with the other Marvel universe, and get them some interesting, get a good top notch writer for not a limited series. Try to get an ongoing series with a good writer and start building that storyline and those plots and those arcs we're gonna want to care about.
All right, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's segue. Let's segue because you touched on something. I don't know if you touched on it. I'm older than you. I'm old, Deon. I'm gonna die, Deon. I hate to tell you, I'm gonna die.
uh,
But
we're
before
all
I
into it.
do,
Uh-huh.
I want to see the resurrection of comic books on a big level. But what you touched on is it used to be you get a hot writer on a comic, it would sell. You get a
Mhm.
hot artist on a comic, it will sell. In the last 10 years, with some success in that area, it hasn't been a guarantee anymore when you get the hot writer on a book, you get the hot artist on a book. Why do you think fans have turned away from the artist of the week or the writer of the week hopping on a book? Grant Morrison's name is not selling what it used to sell. Alan
Mhm.
Moore's name is not selling what it used to sell. You stick Jim Lee on a book, it's not selling what it used to sell. Rob Liefeld isn't selling what it used to sell. Why do you think this is?
Hmm. Ooh, that's a really, really tough question, man.
Because we do
Oh
it for the
man.
culture.
Oh shit, put me in the hot seat here. So why do I think the pretty much almost the death of the comic book superstar a sense, right? The
Mm.
writer or the artist, and why isn't the sales coming from that? And I think for the most part, it might be that I think we're looking at more so the character rather than the person delivering the goods, so to speak. I think we're so branded into maybe Spider-Man, X-Men, Superman, Batman that maybe we're caring less about some of the other minor characters or the B or C listers of the comic universes that they're inhabiting. So um, and I do think the films also can play a part of gathering interest for all these companies. Like Black Panther comes out, all of a sudden you see all these Black Panther trades. Guardians of the Galaxy comes out, they get new number ones, now they're getting trades. Even Monica Rambeau now showing up in WandaVision and now going to show up in the Marvels. Guess what? Well, now she's got a 5 issue minute series release. So I think part of it might be branding. Part of it might be more of the character we're following rather than the artist or the writer behind the book. You know, the artist and the writer can jump off and we're ready to continue because we're so invested in the character that it
But
doesn't matter. Maybe. That's
stop
just my
there.
guess.
Wait, Deon, stop there. I don't mean to interrupt you,
Uh-huh.
but I'm glad you said from the mainstream point of view, we're following the characters, the books. But in the
Hmm.
indie comic space, you got the exact opposite. On this
Hmm.
show, I talk about creating a following, about influencers. We are living an influencer age, so to speak. So you have people like the EVSs, the Eric July's. You have the
Yes, sir.
Comic Gate crowd. They've managed on the independent level to brand themselves where it's more about them than their books.
Hmm.
So on the mainstream, it's gone away from having a Grant Morrison or a Jim Lee on a book to, hey, let's just focus on this character, this book. But on the independent level, it's gone full circle. Now it's about that creator and less about that book. Do you agree or disagree? Am I making sense?
No, I think you're making sense. I think you're making sense. The indie scene is a little bit more tighter, I guess. It's a little bit more closed in, but in a sense, you know who everyone is, so to speak, and you're not you're buying into now an ideology or a personality or politics of somebody. You're becoming a fan and a follower of somebody rather than the product itself. So you're more willing to buy in any product that individual put out because in the end you're really buying into the product of the person rather than the actual material that they're making. So I think you're absolutely right. I think especially this weird this culture war thing going on in the internet and the social media influencer age, like you talked about, we're becoming fans of the individual and we're willing to rally and support them no matter what they put out because we align with their beliefs and we align with like we're totally buying in to them as a person and a online identity.
I like that. Everybody loves a good underdog story. That's what made the Mighty Ducks so popular growing up as a kid. Joe McPhee's in the chat. He's like, yo, this generation doesn't care about creative teams. You touched on that just now. It's moved
Yeah.
away from the creator in the mainstream to the books. So it doesn't matter who's writing or drawing it. People are going to
Hmm.
pick it up to a certain extent. And on the independent level, we're buying into the EVSs. We're buying into the Dan Fraga. But the thing people forget, a lot of the big names in Comicsgate, they already have established fan bases. They're already coming in with a fan base. Even
Hmm.
Young Ripper, he already had a fan base. So these are not
Right.
people that are starting from zero. They already have established fan bases inside and outside of comic books that they're bringing to the table.
Hmm. Right. Right. You're pretty much better off becoming a social media influencer first, then making comics second. Like whatever you can get your following from on that other sphere, get that first, and then circle into comics. You want to do comics because that'll give you a big leg up on just starting from scratch. Directly, I'm a writer for comics, or I'm big into comics. If you could do video games, you could do movies, you could do political views on anything or whatever, right? You build up that following and then you make a comic about that genre or that medium that you're really passionate about, and then you're good to go. It seems that might
We
be the
see it
future.
happen all the time.
Hmm.
What's the dude name that does the anime content? Was it Black Star Media? He did the Demon Rush. He got a comic book, well, manga. He has a
Hmm.
card game. He made a pilot anime episode. For Forever News, Forever World. What's it? For Never World, whatever. He's working on a comic book himself. So we've
Hmm.
seen this work with influencers time and time again, where they build a following, then one day they decide, yo, I'm going to release a book, or I'm going
Hmm.
to release a T-shirt, a hoodie. You know how many big YouTubers make millions of dollars just selling T-shirts and hoodies? It's
Hmm.
crazy.
Right. Right. Nah, man, you ain't telling no lie, man. You ain't telling no lie, dude. For real, for real. The game is, and I think that's maybe in the entertainment industry in general of just kind of switching over. I'm not sure if the acting stars are feeling this kind of way as well, where it's like, the social media influencers are kind of, those are numbers, those are eyeballs, and that's currency to who wants to hire them or put them in their film or put them in their short. And they know that, hey, that's 500,000 people online who might want to check it out. That's a million eyeballs online that might want to check that out. And it's becoming the same thing for comic books as well, where if you're not that influencer, if you're not that person with that base, you're kind of almost invisible, even if you do write for Marvel and DC.
I was sitting there reading Joe's comments. Joe has a link to join this conversation. He wants to hide that in the chat room. What did he say? I call BS on indie side of things. That sector is stuck in the older wizard. This is what's popular mentality. Wait, it's why they complain so much about mainstream promote. What's that? Oh,
Promote now.
promote
About how
now.
mainstream promote now.
Huh? What do you think of
Hmm.
that?
What's it? They are forced to build on their name to get people to look that way. Um, yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, that as an indie person, it's like, this is who I am. This is my first book, or what. You have to get people to more get that personal relationship with you, rather than your character may or may not do it by itself. So it's really on more of you and putting your face behind it, having not just a man behind the curtain, but a man in front of the stage presenting something to folks that might be interested in. So, hey, I appreciate that. Mobile Trader Network says great discussion, gents. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we
Um,
definitely do.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, what do you think, man? What do you think about I guess, to basically your question? Why do you think that the mainstream writers and the creative teams are not being followed right now?
There he is. There's Joe.
Hey, what's going
Yeah.
on, man?
It's
Wait,
like
let's
Arthur
let
asked a
Joe.
great
Joe
question.
started this. Let's let Joe answer this question.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Now, Arthur asked a great question there. And the reason why I called BS on it is because when you truly think about it, everybody wants to separate, mainstream from indie. But what makes indie, side stick out is because they have to make a name for themselves to have people look their way. When you think about the EBSs in the world, they don't think about what book they wrote that is so popular that you associate that book with EBS. It's the other way around. It's EBS with his plethora of books that he's maybe putting out maybe like once a month, once a year, or whatever he feels like doing a project, because his name carries more weight than the projects that he works on, as opposed to with other companies like your Image or Dark Horse and stuff like that. It's always about the IP. Even when I publish stuff, I don't really put my name out there in front of the actual titles. But when you promote that title, that IP has to resonate in some form or some fashion. Now, if you like my artwork, you like my writing, and you associate that and you come back for the project because of who I am, that's one thing. But in the bottom line of it is, it's still me promoting that IP first. I have to promote the IP and I have to promote the actual branding or the company name before it becomes about Joe McPhee. And I feel that others should follow that mentality. But because most of us grew up in that 90s wizard era, and that's what I fought for this reason why I call BS on it, because that mentality stuck around with a lot of the former people who were in comics that moved over away from quote unquote mainstream now, and they're up here. It's like in yesterday's years and in yesterday's standards, this is how things worked, and it still will work to this day. And it's like, I don't know, because it's not catching the younger eyes at all.
Damn.
Damn, you just threw it
Mini
down,
mic
man.
drop. Where's my camera at? Mini mic drop.
Need the air horns, man. Need the air horns sound bar. Damn, man. Yeah, no joke. That is no joke, man. That's for real, for real. I mean, why do you mentioned the youth? I guess question for you would be why you think comic books are not, I guess, meshing well or catching the attention with the youth. We see like there's an age gap up with comic books, and the youth are kind of turned into other mediums besides comics. Why do you think that is?
Because the fandom is currently toxic. Because the older fandom is so toxic with one another, and they're not sharing the love of why they like it with the younger crowd. And the younger crowd is constantly seeing the petty arguments and everything. And then with the IPs themselves being rewritten and seeing how others react to it, it's kind of like a turnoff. It does not appeal to them. Now, the one thing that I will say here, and I always lump manga with comics. To me, they're all the same.
Not to me, but go for it.
They're all the same. The reason why I say they're all the same is just the technique that is being used catches the younger people's eye. Now, there's something about that technique and the way that it's done, plus the reinforcement with the animation, with the anime, and all the other stuff that catches their attention, that feeds better into it as opposed to American style comics, where now you have all of this infighting amongst creators and amongst fans, amongst anybody who loves the older stuff. You never get a consistency of a group of people to say, we love Iron Man, and here's why Iron Man is good. It's more like, we love Iron Man, but you're wrong for liking that he's an alcoholic, or you're wrong because you're wrong for liking him because he got a pacemaker, or you're wrong because he got this organic armor and and all this other stuff. It's like, that's stupid. Why can't you say like, hey?
Okay, so Joe, maybe either one of y'all, Joe, Deon. All right, this is Joe McPhee, creator of Amazonia. He has a show right here on YouTube from the desk of a small publisher. He drops knowledge every Saturday night. He live streams. Check him out as well. My question: when did the fandom become toxic? Remember the whole Marvel zombies and Marvel versus DC? It was tongue in cheek. It was fun. So when did that change? When did the fandom become toxic?
I believe the fandom became toxic once we started seeing a change in how the books are being collected. If I go back to the 90s, because I always focus on the 90s for a couple of reasons. One, 90s was the big decade where you got the whole boom with variant comics and the destruction of variant comics to the industry. To remember, there was a big boom and then it was almost crashed in that same decade because of all the different variant comics and everything that comes out, variant covers and everything that came out. Two, you had Wizard Magazine telling the masses who to like, why to like them, and why these quote unquote creators are cool, leaving other independent creators out in the dark. It's almost like Wizard teamed up with Image to make Image the way that there was. The third thing was how Marvel and DC was looking at the incoming talent, and they was really trying to rape them over the coals too. So now with the talent being segregated and putting, the business of the industry out there, their particular fans for like their artwork or their writing now is picking up on it. And now those fans are feeling such a way. It was the beginning of that toxicity. It wasn't no longer about, hey, you like Batman, I like Batman, let's go read some Batman comics.
That's deep.
Okay.
Deon?
Oh shit. Me personally, I think I was out of comics for like a long time. I got back into comic books in 2018 after I left like around 2014. I remember going on the internet and YouTube and seeing a whole lot of videos saying Marvel comics suck, DC comics suck. Everybody, all mainstream comics suck. I'm like, really? It does now? You know what I'm saying? And then I think it's a culmination of kind of like The Last Jedi, when The Last Jedi came out and everyone made content about how Last Jedi sucked. Kathleen Kennedy's the devil. We need to take back Star Wars. I think people saw the monetary gain of being that shock value kind of tiki torch, like, yeah, let's take back entertainment.
Speak on it.
And I think, not think, that should definitely transfer it over into comic books, and then from there we get to the year we have now, 2022, where it's basically just this kind of it's a fake culture war. It's people just trying to get money, people in echo chambers, and they know that, hey, I do a video like this, I can get Google AdSense, I can get followers, I can do all this. They don't even have to believe in half the shit they're saying.
No,
they're just trying to get paid. And any little thing that that's out there, they're basically making their mark on that and getting followers. So I think that toxicity, me theorizing that around 2018 maybe is when it started becoming more regular of occurrence. Because when 2014, I remember when Sam Wilson became Cap and the comics, and there really wasn't that much of a tirade about it. I remember the news groups or whatever, like everyone was just like, "Oh, cool, yeah, Sam's Cap now." There wasn't. It wouldn't be the same if it was announced this year that Sam became Cap, you know. So that's my theory. I feel like the internet took something and basically ran with it and made its own subgenre, subculture out of it. And whether people know it or not, there is no such thing as like woke or woke. Everyone has a political ideology with a comic book. It's the fact that you want something that's non-woke makes it inherently still political. You know, and I want something non-political. It's just say you want a comic book that follows your politics. That's be more real than
exactly.
I want non-politics in my comic books. But yeah, that be long-winded. That I think that's where it started, man. But I think Joe definitely is hitting the nail on it with his point as well.
I got sound effects now.
I like it, man. I like it. The air horn.
Now, both of y'all got good points. I've said it 100 times on this show that you can have 5 podcasts or 5 YouTubers, and you happen to follow them. They're creating a narrative. Like you said, hey, comic books suck. So you coming back as a former fan of comics, and you see these videos, and they all say comics suck. You're like, wait, what's going on? Why do they suck? And it's easy to get sucked into that madness, get sucked into that counterculture of, hey, you know what? We know if we say Marvel sucks, we're going to get X amount of views. We're going to get X amount of downloads. And that's why people do it. 2 years ago, I was on Young Ripper's show, and I told him straight to his face, virtually, you're cooning for clicks. He didn't like that, of course. But I said, you know that you're making videos for a certain audience that's going to tune into this. You're creating a certain narrative. Whether you believe it or not, you know that this narrative is going to get you fans. It's going to get you views. He's a very intelligent guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows who he's catering to. I did an experiment. I talked to Joe McPhee about this. I said, I'm going to make a couple Young Ripper videos. Watch them get more hits than my regular videos. What happened, Joe? Did they get more hits?
It got more hits. And I even made one, and it got a lot of hits. And
why did these videos get more hits? Why? Because people associate Young Ripper with negative comments.
Mm-hmm.
They associate him with, you got some fans of his that love the fact that, oh, it's the little guy against big corporation, big comics. So that's not lost on me when I make these statements. I understand why people follow him. I understand why some people dislike him. I understand why some people love him. But when I say cooning for clicks, when you associate with people like Glenn Beck, who I don't know how many of y'all know about politics and the conservative movement, that's right there. You can't go any further right than Glenn Beck. But, that's neither here nor there. But it goes to show that You know, we can make video after video about Marvel sucks, DC sucks, comic book sucks, and our views, our subscribers will go up because so many people feed into that negative mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I got caught
Right.
up in a for a bit, and I was like, no, I have a platform. I want to use it to hopefully bridge the gap between the positive and the negative. Still critique things if they need to be critiqued, but some things
Mhm.
don't need to be critiqued. Deon, before we started the show, you mentioned She-Hulk. Joe McPhee's a big fan of She-Hulk, but he's yet to release one video about it because he's like, you know what? And I talked to him on the phone about this earlier. He was like, I'm just enjoying the show for what it is.
Mhm.
I have to divorce my own fandom from the show because the show is made for everybody to enjoy. I cannot
Mhm.
place my own fandom onto this show and say whether it's good, bad, or indifferent at that point. And I'm really trying to stay adamant. Is there things that I don't like about the show? Yes. Is there things that I like about it? Yes. Will I ever go out there to really talk about it, to say, to either, land blast it or celebrate it? Probably not, because it's not something for me to do as a fan. I'm supposed to be the quote unquote positive aspect for it. So I'm supposed to celebrate it and look at the positive aspects of it and help other people celebrate it who actually love it.
Mm.
Mm. Right, right. I mean, the circle of negativity sells. It really does. And you put a positive review on She-Hulk, you won't get much. Negative review, you want to blast the damn thing. Oh yeah, yeah. Then you'll get the attention for it. And yeah, it takes away the fun and enjoyment. Like if you just want to, oh, I'm excited for She-Hulk. Let me look up some YouTube videos about it. I want to get excited for it. You're gonna get hit with all that content, and sometimes comic book fans, I guess we could get a little bit analytical when you mention like Tony Stark. It has come up conversations like, oh, you like Iron Man? Oh, he's a womanizer. Like, oh, he's an alcoholic and all these other things. And it's like, I think sometimes comic book fans get a little bit too into, I guess, the narratives and not just relax a little bit and just have fun with it.
Now that brings up a question that I want to ask here. Why is it that comic book fans cannot say that something is not that cup of tea and be open-minded enough to partake in it or read something that they would normally never read before?
Mm.
How
Who
can you
want
be
to
a
tackle
comic
that
book
one?
fan? How can you be a comic book fan and not even touch the material that a lot of these quote unquote, if I can say, videos are talking about? How can you be mad about Captain Marvel, especially with the whole Monica Rambeau and talking about, oh, what happened to the Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel #1, and nobody's talking about that? It's like, that's been out there for how long, and people like myself have read it and own it.
Wait. Joe, are you
Mhm.
telling me that some of these podcasts and YouTubers don't read the comics that they're bitching about?
Ding, 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 ding. Correct answer.
You mean they
Oh.
just read a Bleeding Cool article and just run with it? No.
No way.
Sometimes it just might be a trailer.
But they're comic book
Shocked.
fans. They're comic book fans. They say they're comic book fans. Of course. How would they form their opinion if they never saw it before? That doesn't compute.
What foolery is this?
What is
You mean
that?
I can make 10 videos based off an image?
Yep.
Brace off the preview section for the next couple months. You can make.
I mean, I just think about all the memes that came off of the concept of safe space.
Wait, what's going on in the comment section? Anybody making any comments?
Yeah, we got aggressively relaxing, saying all these parasites make noise around the hobby come from its popularity. IMO. Exactly. You can say daytime TV stuff about the most popular media and gets money or work at the chicken plant. Now there are so many of these performers. It looks like people who read Lord of the Rings or monsters.
Damn.
Dang.
Are you
Wow.
not yet entertained?
Now that was a mic drop moment there.
Yeah,
That
let me
was
give him a
actually a mic drop
minute
moment.
mic drop.
Oh damn, bro!
He is not wrong.
Woo! I've never seen this. I haven't seen heat for a show like this in a long ass time, man. Like, yo, they got their asses like tight over this damn black dwarves in Lord of the Rings.
Black Thor, that should not have been a thing.
Oh, for was it the Rings of Power?
Oh, I was thinking about freaking Miles Morales. My bad.
Oh no. But even
No,
that,
you're talking about Rings of Power.
yeah, even that negativity. So more people talked about that than any good. Like, what was a good comic book? They all talked about the negativity about that one issue rather than
What
anything
do
that
you
was
like?
decent that year.
It's like, what do you like? No, crickets.
Now I want to see Rings of Power. I got to see it now.
$500 million budget, man. It's like half a bill. They put a lot of money into this thing. So, but you can't really win because if the critics say it's great, they say they're lying. They're getting paid. If there's actually the fans say that it's great, they say, oh, it's propaganda and it's bots and they're not real people saying that it's really good. Everything gets spun to deliver whatever. It's basically Alex Jones Infowars for nerdom. It's really what it is. You know,
Payola. That's what they used to call it in radio. Hey, we're gonna
uh-huh.
pay you for your opinion. We're gonna pay you to play our music. It's crowdfunding payola. Is it the new payola? Or likes the new payola? Or views the new payola? Because as we said, if we get on this platform right now and we're left, everything is trash. This is trash. This is trash. This video will go viral. So is our opinion being bought? Can you buy an influencer's opinion? Like I said with Young Ripper, if you look at his early content, it was not what it is today. You know, he focused on some of his libertarian views. He talked about his music. He would talk about comic books. And, you know, years ago, I say 5-6 years ago, he actually read comics. When was the last time you seen him talk about a storyline? When was the last time he talked about, hey, this collection I picked up at the store? I'm waiting, crickets. But what he will talk about, Joe pointed this out, this trailer, this article I read on Comic Book News. A lot of these people are not currently comic book readers. Not saying they haven't been in the past, but currently you can tell when somebody is actually reading the material that is being released. Nerdette's newsstand, she reads comic books. It's very apparent if you watch her videos. Do I agree with most of the stuff she says? Of course not. I say it all the time. But you can tell that she reads the material. And she's not just, hey, I saw an image. I'm just going to talk about it for 4 videos.
Shots fired. Oh shit! You need to reload, man. No, you still got some in the mag.
Hold up. Let me see. Let me see what I got. Wait, I got this.
Oh shit, man! You firing in all cylinders, man. You
So
firing.
I
in all
care
cylinders.
about the culture. You know, growing up in the late 80s and 90s and stuff like that. I was that ashy kid, you know, on the sidewalk reading comic book with Coke bottle glasses. I had to deal with the hood rats and stuff like that. Ask me, yo, will you carry this for me, son? You know, yo, I'll give you this. You just take it over there and give it to my mans across the street. You know, I was that skinny, nerdy kid with the Coke bottle glasses. You think I got girls? No. I was reading freaking comic books. I got to high school. Guess what I discovered? I could draw. Girls sit up there watching me draw and sketch. Oh, that's cool. Draw me. You know, that whole thing. What separated me from getting my butt kicked, pushed against the locker, I learned how to talk to girls. So my question, gentlemen, and I'm saying this in an aggressive tone, like Funk Master Flex.
He
Where's
felt
my
to put the
bomb?
bass in his voice too.
Oh yeah, he is.
Damn it, I can't find my bomb now. Fuck it.
There you go. Air horn. That works.
Growing up, what separated y'all from, I would say, a traditional nerd? Or were you the traditional nerd? And today, how do you relate to other nerds?
Oh shit. Well, I guess I'll go first. So for me, growing up, what separated me from being an average nerd, I guess, or more the diehard nerds, was I remember distinctively in the hallway there was a group of 5 nerds. It was like a group of 5 to 10 of them. They sit on the ground. They would sit on the ground. They would play Yu-Gi-Oh cards, trading cards. That was like the bottom of the bottom. That was like, there's no way. Even though I played the same games as them, right? I could probably play Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh with them. There's no way I'm going down to that level of the social hierarchy. That was the lowest of the lows. So for me, it was just kind of masking it a little bit, combining what was popular, but also having still that nerddom. We still would watch Dragon Ball Z Toonami. We would talk about it amongst certain people, not everybody. We would bang and make beats on the table. We would do dumb, ignorant stuff as well. You know what I'm saying? We do dumb shit, and we would mix it up. So it wasn't just always just being, just straightforward a nerd. It was also just trying to combine that with kind of what was popular with everything else. You could joke on if you had a Game Boy or Nintendo DS. PSP with the UMDs, you were good. You know what I mean? Like it all depended. It all depended on what style or what thing you were adapting. So now everyone is just a nerd or a blurred or whatever. So you go to a convention, it's like it's more mainstream. It's definitely more accessible. And now it's more cool to talk about, hey, I like anime, hey, I like comic books, hey, I like whatever. Well, let's just be real. Before it was just like, oh, like hide yourself. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get
Yep.
beat up, or I don't want to get teased, or I don't want any girls to like judge me as this dry ass nerd guy. Like before, now it's changed. Now the girls wearing hentai shirts. Now they're wearing, now they cosplaying as male characters. Now they're cross dressing them. It's totally mainstream accessible
Cross
now.
dressing them.
Cross dressing them, whatever. Everyone's doing everything now. They're really it's good to be a nerd now because not everyone is a nerd.
Then you got Joe McPhee, little
Joe.
skinny black kid from the south side of Chicago.
Oh shit! Sounds like a sitcom.
He grew up and got him a girl. He ain't worried about none of y'all. Tell us your origin story.
Pretty much my origin story was more or less like I was kind of like that James Bond kid in like high school. It's like I was, it's like people knew who I was because I was hardly ever there because I was doing all these different competitions. But also at the same time, I was that same dude that read comic books, the same dude that was going, to arcades and being playing video games and everything, avoiding, gang members after beating them up in Street Fighter 2 and whatnot.
Hell yeah.
Betting money and everything on games like that. And, it's like I got to the point where I started making friends of all ilks because I was not around just one class of individual, if I could say it that way. So it kind of forced me to be like, when I'm around these people, I act this way. When I'm around these people, I act this way. When I'm around these people, I act this way. And everybody has like their niche. It's like these guys over here. It's like we go over there, we'll talk about role-playing games. We'll play role-playing games and, board games and everything. But I come back around people around my school, we'll talk about football, go out, talk about playing Madden, playing Street Fighter 2. And then my closest friends in high school, we used to, if we had enough time, we would like ditch class, go downtown, pick up some comic books, go to the arcade, hang out, do whatever. I mean, it was just one of those things. It's like I was like one of those people that really didn't have a niche. I was kind of like that guy that is a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Right.
Can we have a red pill conversation, gentlemen?
Go ahead.
Oh shit. Let's do it.
All right, my light won't. Okay. Historically speaking, black men growing up that are kind of nerdy, people expected them to be with a a white woman or an Asian woman, or they couldn't get a black woman, or they felt the black women did not want them. I want to know, what was y'all experience dating in the past and dating now? I know both of y'all touched on it a little bit as far as the perception of nerds and what's socially acceptable now and what's cool now. But growing up, what was your experiences dating? And what kind of women did you attract versus the kind of women you wanted? And how has that changed your viewpoint on women of all nationalities?
All right, I'll go first.
Yo,
So,
like, thank you.
No, I just wanted to see if he wanted to go first or not. Because I could tell you exactly my experience here in a nutshell. I mean, pretty much from my experience, it pretty much came back down to high school. It was like the ones that liked you were more intimidated because of the simple fact that you were not like the average guy that they're used to seeing around and acting, that act up and do whatever quote unquote cool stuff. So they never could gauge what I was actually thinking and how I actually feel until I told them. By the time I got into college and shortly after my military stint, it was more along the lines of like the ones that I was attracted to people of their same ilk. So if I was more attracted to the more athletic type women and stuff to that magnitude coming from the Air Force, they were more attracted to like the muscle bound dudes and everything like that. And I was not like that. I was more the in between athletic but highly intelligent type people, which they respected, but at the same time, that physical attraction wasn't there. And those who were attracted to me came with too much baggage.
Mm.
And when I say too much baggage, I mean we talked about kids, self-esteem problems, stuff to that magnitude.
Trauma chicks.
Exactly. So as I got older and older and older, it's like it comes back down to it's like sometimes you settle for certain things, sometimes you let certain things go. So it's like you start dating, women who had kids and you go through, those experiences, and then you try to date outside your race and go through those experiences. But it was never just like one type of woman that I would really be like gravitate towards. I mean, there's certain characteristics that I loved and I moved more towards that. But in general, as I was growing up, it was more along the lines, not most women couldn't gauge where my mentality was as far as how I thought about them. But when I made them aware of it, it was kind of like, well, he's not what we're used to. Do I stick with him and try to make things work, or do I go with the person who I know and I could respond to a lot better?
I'm glad you said that because you told me a while back people assume that you only date white women, but your uh your fiance is black. Been
Mm-hmm.
black, haven't changed. Why do you think people assume that you date white women and you only date white women? Where do you think that came from? What is it about you or your persona that you think people just naturally think this?
It's about experience because
Is it because of the comic books?
no, it's not because of college. It's about experience because being that a former military, you get different experiences. So you're around multiple cultures. So once you get exposure to other cultures like that, and you come back to like the South Side of Chicago, not everybody will have those same sentiments that you have, and they don't view the world the same way that you do. So in a lot of cases, when I meet a young woman, let's just put it at that, and the first couple of things out of their mouth comes like almost to the point where they're like uber ghetto, I can't relate to them, and they automatically assume because I can't relate or choose not to relate that I'm not attracted to them. That I want to be with somebody of a different race because of that. I was like, no, it's like you just uneducated, my dear. You need to
Damn.
learn something. You need to learn something outside of this neighborhood.
So no hood rat shits.
I mean, hood rats are hood rats, but if that's what they're used to, they're going to go with what they're used to. I mean, that's the way that it is. That's the way I look at it.
He said, "If you Uber ghetto, keep it going."
I mean, it just is. It just is. It's like how am I going to talk to somebody who's uber ghetto about something that's going on in like Sri Lanka?
Okay.
They're gonna be like, why would I care about Sri Lanka? It's like we're all interconnected. It's like it's the human race. We're all interconnected in some form or some fashion. It's like that's a conversation to be had, but you can't have it because they're not into that type of stuff.
Deon, save us from new Kevin Samuels.
Oh man. All right. So I would say I got into the cosplay scene, convention scene in 2010, 2011. And up until that point, when it came to like nerd girls or whatever, blurred girls, I think that nerd side for all the races for women were like hiding in high school. I don't think it really wasn't a thing. Like you'd maybe see a girl with like odd clothes, like cover overalls or something a little bit off, but it wasn't like they were wearing like Sailor Moon shirts or a Captain America shirt or something to be like, oh, like she would totally be into something that I'm into. And I didn't really see any of that until 2010 when I got into the convention scene and started cosplaying. And then I noticed there was sort of a hierarchy in terms of sex appeal in these conventions where it was Asian women were like the top notch. Like, oh my God, Asian woman was like the number one sought after girl in the convention scene. And then for women, I would say it was, now it's different, but back then it was still like the white guys were like the number one for the cosplay convention scene. And then even the big cosplay girls, they were mostly white women and Asian women. So the blur girls didn't really get much love back in those early 2010s. I remember only one really kind of in my area, whatever, reached that kind of semi-success, but it was really white women and Asian women were getting all the love. They were getting all the likes, the subs. They were at the top of the cosplay game, model game, whatever. And I think just till recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, it's switched. It's swapped where you have a lot of black cosplay chicks now finally getting like that attention and finally getting that recognition of equal ground as the other two. But when I first got in, there was a lot of interracial dating going on in the convention scene, a lot of mixed race couples, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it was a lot of mixing, swirling going around back then. And now it's different. Now it's everyone has sort of like, now you can get anyone paired up with anybody now. It's before it was kind of rare to see like a black couple at like a convention cosplaying together. Now it's normal. You know what I mean? So I guess as time has changed and as things become more mainstream and, being a nerd, being a blurred, all that stuff is now accessible to anybody. Now it's more of like just an equal playing ground. But before it definitely was a little bit more biased towards having swirling and definitely more towards like, oh, white girls are so hot or Asian girls are so hot or like white guys are so hot and those kind of things, back then in early 2010s.
Not to put you on the spot here, but why did you zero in on blurred girls first? Because the question was in general. All women.
In general?
All
women?
Deon knew what he was
all
doing.
women, not just blurred girls or the nerd sector. We wasn't talking just only them. He went directly to them. I was like,
the blurred. They were more rare.
Maybe that's his kink. Maybe.
They were more rare back then. I know everyone will say on the internet, "Oh, we were always around," but it definitely seemed like they were more harder to find back then. It just wasn't like it is now. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't as accessible now. Back then, it was still, and even the black nerd guys, you still have that. If you play video games, you better be playing Madden, Def Jam, Fight for New York. You know what I'm saying? Some kind of race skin, NBA Legends or Street. Like there's a certain level to where you just couldn't nerd out. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
so,
I think I got it, Deon. I think I got what you're saying. What you're
telling
us,
what you're saying, but he got different type.
Let me know if I'm wrong. So what you're telling us is back in the day, by proxy, you dated Asian chicks and white chicks because the black chicks, they were too busy being Uber drivers. But now that the blurred chicks are out and you see them thighs at the convention, you're like, I needed a round-the-way girl. Is that what you're telling us? Now that the black girls at the conventions, it's free game, black love time.
Now since he's seeing Storm being Storm.
Wait. So you said a white girl cannot cosplay as Storm?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'll say that he's finally seeing Storm being Storm. White girls can be Storm. I'm not saying that.
Would you hit it?
But well, I'll just also say it's like there's a difference between being Storm and having curves to be Storm. You know.
Yeah,
You gotta have them yams.
I guess what I was saying was, I guess for black people, being nerds was kind of, you have to suppress it. You know what I mean? There was a level where you couldn't just completely nerd out. For black men or for black women, there was a certain level to where it was acceptable. Like I said, you could own a PSP, Nintendo DS. What the fuck? You know, that's kiddie shit. You know what I'm saying? Or even when it came to watching cartoons, Boondocks. Sure, you can watch that. South Park. Sure, you can watch that. Oh, you're watching Thundercats? What? You watching? You
It
know,
is a
like
whole lot.
a whole.
Okay, but Deon,
Yeah.
this is my question for both of y'all.
Mhm.
Do you think all this boils down to the perception of black masculinity and how black people view ourselves in our society? Where in white, I'm just gonna say white culture, whatever. Um, it's okay to be the nerdy guy. It's okay to be the weirdo guy. But in black culture, in the black communities, for years, for generations, that was not okay. Like you said, we had to hide being a nerd. Even black women had to hide being nerds, and the black masculinity thing where you got to be aggressive, you got to be tough, you got to have this edge to you. That was toxic as fuck if you really think about it, but it was accepted and it's still accepted in the black communities today. So, why do you think in 2022 going into 2023 that the concept of black masculinity is still viewed as you have to put on this tough guy persona, otherwise you're not worthy of getting one of these black queens?
That's interesting because of the simple fact that you put it in a particular narrative that I kind of put it in a different aspect here. Because you up here focus on masculinity, I see it as more as what why do African Americans look at things as if it ain't cool, they don't want anything to do with it, and that aspect of cool shifts from time to time. So it's like for example, when you mentioned masculinity, it's like it went from having a job, taking care of your family, being that macho head figure to being a thug, and then being metrosexual and all this other stuff. It's just like whatever is cool for that time, you have to try to achieve whatever that level of cool is for people to accept you. And to me, that's not where it's at. It's like being cool does not entail being yourself. And that's where the problem lies, that people in the black community, people are not allowed to be themselves because of the simple fact that they're more concerned about what other people see as cool about them.
Damn.
Ooh, heavy sentiments right there, man. I
I
mean
don't have nothing else to say now.
yeah, man.
I mean, it sums
you
it
on
up
point.
pretty much. And the weird thing about it is, like, when you talk to older cats, cats that was like in like their 20s and 30s and the 70s, and you talk about how things are today with them, that's the first thing that they always talk about. It's like, why are we so caught up about what is cool? I was like, what do you mean by that? That's like, and then they broke it down to me and it just stuck.
But
Right.
if you look at all aspects of entertainment except for comic books, if you look at sports, music, television, movies, black people for the most part have helped define cool, and other cultures have wanted to emulate that for generations. So why is it that in sports and music, television, we can define the cool, but we can't do it when it comes to this nerd geek shit?
Well,
Deon, I
not
pass it
just,
to you.
oh, go ahead, give it to Deon first. Okay.
Oh shit. So damn, why do we do it for everything else but not this nerd geekdom shit? Man, I mean, Joe knocked, man, he put a haymaker out there, because I do remember someone mentioning that, shout out to Black Comic Lord, someone on their posts, someone mentioned that growing up they were not encouraged to be artists. They were not encouraged to be writers or creators like that. It was pretty much you work, you go to the factory, become a basketball player, whatever, right? They had these
Go to the
default.
factory.
You go work at the factory. You had these default positions that you filled in. It was not encouraged to be, I guess, like a comic book writer or a comic book illustrator or a video game designer, or those kind of things are not
Sports and music.
sports and music, right? Entertaining, but not with like comics and video games or animation. That was like discouraged. Like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. This is what we do. And it's sort of like we just keep doing that. So I think maybe that's the reason why when it comes, we're a little bit behind in that, because it's not something that has been encouraged to us until recently, until I don't know, these last like 15, 20 years, of nerddom, so to speak, where it's like acceptable for us to go ahead and check that out. When we see Black Panther, how many parents now be like, oh yeah, you go ahead, you can draw a superhero, you can do all those kind of things, or you see Jordan Peele and his films, and now it's like, oh yeah, like Black writers can do horror now. Yes, of course, yeah, it's okay to be in the horror genre. I guess we're pushing like these envelopes of like these social norms that we've been had ingrained for us for the longest time. I don't know where that started. I mean, we do great in like novels and poetry and things like that. We have great phenomenal writers, but when it comes to comic books and anime, manga, and all that other stuff, and video games too, like I don't know, how come there isn't more Black video game developers and creators doing like projects like Metal Gear and Hideo Kojima, or Shigeru Miyamoto with Mario? Like, we're still not in that sphere yet per se, and I don't know why that. I don't know where that started, us not being encouraged to do so. Maybe it was too new and too different, and we were told to say, hey, just stick to music, stick to sports, stick to entertaining, and disregard that stuff. That's all I got. What you got, Joe?
I was going to go a different route with it. I'm going to take it more than just the geek culture side.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way that I saw it, especially when growing up, it was whatever had the most immediate impact on you financially. And when you think about comic book writing, the video game developing and everything, there was really little to none of us around where somebody could see it's like, he makes great money doing this. So when you bring it up to like somebody who's working on the docks, 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and say, hey dad, I want to draw comic books for the rest of my life, he going to look at you kind of strange. It's like, well, how's that going to bring money into your family?
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be like the life lessons that he can only instill in you, because he has no idea of what that job entails. And to even expand a little bit further, it's like I bring like lawyers, doctors, anything that requires higher education, and especially if you're not around those type of people, it was kind of frowned upon, because they don't see, because those people who are in that group or gathering does not see the immediate impact from it. So if you wanted to be a neuroscientist, they will look at you kind of strange. It's like, oh, that's nice, but how are you going to put food on the table while you're going through like 12 years of school? You still need to make money for yourself.
All right, what's going on? Oh, go ahead. No, I was going to ask you, what's going on in the chat, because I can't see what's going on in there right now.
Oh, we got different comments here. We got white nerd dudes have historically caught shit too, and that's true. That was from the Mobile Network Trader, and then Primetime Fire was saying that was me in high school, and then the Mobile Network Trader said the level of understanding has increased. The creative job market is still in its early stages of its evolution. And then Primetime Fire said ESPN covers video game tournaments now, and you can get a scholarship in gaming in colleges. That is true. That is true. Within like the last decade. That's within the last decade. And then Mobile Traders said at Primetime 100%. I mean, this is all recent stuff, but that mentality has already been there until people start seeing it as a viable form of income, at least within our communities. It's not going to be looked on very favorably. Because why? Because you see the kids down the street here who've been rapping all the time, all of a sudden out of nowhere gets like, a contract with some unknown label. They make their album, they go on tour and everything, and they see immediate money.
Okay,
Same
this is
thing
great.
with. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that's a great segue to my
Mhm.
next question. When should you give up on your dream? I'm 46 years old. I have friends who have been rapping since high school. They hell, some of my grandparents now. They're still trying to make it as a rapper, as a writer, as a comic book writer. Let's just look at comics. Let's take out plays, let's take out movies, TVs, all this and that. Deon, he sent me a link earlier from freaking Richard uh talking about there's no new generation of comic book writers. That's the video, right?
Yeah, that was the video.
So when should someone who writes comics give up on their quote unquote dream? And in the same sense, what is making it in the comic book industry? How do we define making it?
Okay, I'm going to put this fact out first to kind of help us guide that particular question. Let's take one of the most popular names in comic books, Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby didn't make his claim to fame, which was Fantastic Four, until he was 42 years old.
Mm.
So the very first issue of Fantastic Four #1 was when he was 42. So putting that in perspective for way back then in 1960. Now he'd been working in comics, but he wasn't that known mainstay until he was 42. So when you look at when do you give it up, when do you become successful? When do you give it up is when you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's not something that you don't want to do.
Mm.
Now, there's a lot of people that chase the fool's dream. It's like, yeah, you're going to be a rapper, but yet you haven't done all the things to become a rapper. You do all the BS stuff, but you haven't really created your own studio, laid down your own tracks, wrote down some bars and everything, and really put yourself out there. If you're doing all that stuff, you go so far as long as you have the means to support yourself. If you can't support yourself, then maybe you have to, retire back and reel things back until you could go full bore. But that's with anything in life.
Yeah.
The way you measure success is it's your own personal means. It's like having success could be putting out, there's like in comic book form, putting out your first issue could be a measure of success. But the thing that you're asking about is long time success. And that's something that is too variable to really to pinpoint to one particular event. You just have to
Okay.
go with the flow with that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I have to agree in terms of what I mean. It depends on the individual. What's their term of success is it? Hey, I was able to write for Marvel DC for one issue. I'm happy with that. Then or it could be no. I wanted to be the next Stan Lee and created like the next 10, 20 characters for the next 50 years of next generation. I think everyone has their own scale of success that they want to achieve. It's hard to put it. It's hard to. Everyone is really going to have their own journey and story and how to properly get there. I mean, honestly, like if you're trying to make Marvel and DC and you're in your 60s, and then it's kind of like honestly, it's like, well, maybe you'd be better off to write something for Image. Maybe you'd be better off to write something for a different company or something like that because um, it really just depends on what your goal is and what you're trying to do. And as a rapper itself, like, okay, you make music, you make good music. Is that your level of success? Or are you trying to get on the radio? Are you trying to get in the Billboard Top 100? It's like, again, it's everyone's individual, I guess, line of success. I would say that there's probably for comic books, how many comic book writers are there really out there that makes a full-time living of comic books comfortably? I guess that would be the ultimate, I guess not the ultimate, but the stand, not the I guess that would be like the bar that you're trying to reach if you're really into it. How can I make a living just writing comic books and writing only comic books for a full-time income and living comfortably? I guess that would be the answer, the goal. And then you just have to look statistically, I guess, how many currently are doing that, working for the
Yeah.
big two or working for Image. You got to run the numbers and see what the odds are to a certain degree.
Damn, y'all going deep.
Yo, Joe was going in, man. He was cooking. He was cooking that shit, man.
Because you're both right. Success for different people means different things. A lot of times when we say success, people are looking at, money, the financial aspects of success. You pointed out something. You're like, hey, you completed your comic book. It's in your hands. That's a success right there. You completed something. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to make a comic book. They never get past that first issue. They never complete it. They'll tell you, "Oh, I got this idea for this 100 issue series," and you're looking at realistically. A lot of independent comic creators don't make it past issue 3. Joe is one of the few people that's made it past issue 7. He's like,
Mm.
"I got
Big
several
ups to you.
series. Speak on it."
Big ups to you, man. Big ups to you,
Yep.
for real.
Yep, I passed the magic number. I got 3 series that made it past 5 issues.
Man,
Look at
put in that
Talk
work.
Joe.
Put in that work, man. That's what's up. That's
And
what's up.
and the bad thing about it, I have not been doing this full time. I still got a 9 to 5 job.
Sacrifice, that's part of the goal. It takes sacrifice. Yeah.
It is a big sacrifice. Speaking of sacrifice, I see a lot of women sacrificing uh, themselves to support their man who wants to, oh, I want to draw comic books for a living. I want to write comic books for a living. And we have a lot of that in this community. What do y'all think of the stay-at-home creator who's living off his good woman? Good woman over there working at the dollar store or whatever the hell the case may be. What do y'all think of these stay-at-home creators who are living off their women?
Oh my goodness. Arthur's up here ruining people's lives right now.
Oh
It's
shit.
like,
Are you talking about those supposedly doing Kickstarters and GoFundMe's to pay their bills?
I like how you said supposedly.
Supposedly, I mean, I haven't seen them, but this is the
Mhm.
shit I just hear on the internet. I have no sympathy. It's like you're gonna have to Uber eat. You're gonna have to shovel some snow. You're gonna have to take out some trash. You're gonna have to do something to sustain yourself. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna pay you so you can pay your bills to write comic books.
I just, like I said, I just shake my head because, like I said, I don't know about everybody's detailed personal experience, especially being outside looking in. Because I question is like, what type of job does she has that could allow them to afford a house with kids to still have food on the table and everything? I was like,
Housing, government housing, food stamps. It's possible. It happens every
government
day.
housing in the suburbs. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I know about some people who could extend that Section 8 to get out to these nice little suburban areas, and it with food stamps and everything to that magnitude. But again, that's keeping things on the hush hush. But with all of that still being stated here, it's still a person on the outside looking in, and I don't feel like it's not a good look. But then again, here's the caveat to this: how long is that other individual is going to put up with it? They're going to have to see results. And when I say see results, it's like not just having 1 or 2 successful Kickstarters, that you're going to have Kickstarters that bring something towards bills.
Facts.
Into the house. So, like I said, I can't speak to anybody's personal aspect on it, even though Arthur and I have talked about this topic a lot. A lot.
That
So
Dollar
there's a
General
lot of
store
people that we
check
can
goes
speculate,
long.
but no. But the bottom line here is if they're living that way, they're a full-time creator, unless they're doing commissions on a daily basis or making money in some form or some fashion that way, Kickstarter and GoFundMe by themselves is not going to be enough to make a family grow. I'm sorry.
Someone's going on OnlyFans, and if not, you better put your characters on OnlyFans.
You got your feet. People making money off their feet.
You better put the feet pics or the busty pics or whatever female characters, male. You better put some male yaoi. You better put whatever you can. Pay the bills, man.
That brings us back to something we touched on earlier. If you're just joining us, that's Deon, Behind the Scenes Podcast. That's Joe McPhee from the Deaths of a Small Publisher. I'm still the indie comic book guy. I'm putting them in the hot seat tonight. Here's my question. TNA comic books sell. They're one of the number one comics on Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Would a TNA comic featuring a woman of color make as much money as the Karen Nicole's? I know the cosplayers, they do have a fan base. So let's take the cosplayers out. We know they're going to make the money. But would a TNA comic on crowdfunding make it with a woman of color make as much money?
I'm not sure that same demographic that would want it is on Kickstarter. I think it could, but I mean, let's face it. The cheesecake category, the main thing is busty white blonde chick. You know what I'm saying? So, maybe I'm not really too sure. I would think the target demographic would be like possibly someone to read like, King magazine or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
You're showing your age. You're showing your age.
You're showing your age.
I know. For those, they don't know. You know what I mean?
They don't know about King magazine.
They don't know about King magazine.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. That's all I got, man. I'm not too sure.
I hate to answer your question with a question. And the question that I have here is, how is it promoted? And the reason I pointed to you that way, because if it's a true TNA book, it doesn't matter what nationality of the character is on that cover for it to sell. However, we're talking Kickstarter here. There got to be some type of promotion behind it. And I know how quirky people can be. So with that being stated, would a TNA book that had a African-American woman on the cover and the main character sells if it is promoted stating that it is, or just as a regular TNA book is really what I'm looking at. If it was
okay,
just,
so you
if it was just left at that, and you make it, make the story, talked about the story and everything, and never focused on the race, it has a good chance. But as soon as you start bringing up, oh, this is about an Asian chick, you got some people that are going to be all for it, but then you're going to have people drop off. If you talk about African American, you're going to have some people that's all for it, but a lot of more people are going to drop off. But if you have a blonde woman and everything, it's going to be like the people going to show up. So now the question that always looms is like, well, knowing that, do I mention nationality at all, or just mention that, hey, it's a nice little book, it's about this, and this, the characters, this, and this, and let the as they say, let the beholder feel the way that they feel and go from there.
No, I agree 100%, because I hate when people point out the race of a character. It's a visual medium. You can see if the character's black, white, Asian, whatever. I hate when people are like, oh, this black character, this black comic, that annoys me. But if you come out with WAP issue 1,
wow,
I just want to know if WAP would sell.
Yeah, I mean, Megan Thee Stallion came out with WAP issue 1. She wouldn't need Kickstarter. You know what I mean?
She's a comic book fan.
I think she's manga. I mean, if you count comic books and manga, but she's apparently a manga and anime. But I think when it comes to that, I think it would sell better as erotica rather than straight up lewd comic book. I think.
So would you buy WAP number 1?
WAP number depends. If Megan Thee Stallion did, maybe, sure. But
Joe's thinking about it. Look at him.
No, I'm listening to his answer. It's like, well, if Megan Thee Stallion did it, it's like, but what if it wasn't?
What if it wasn't?
Yeah, I mean, you're giving us all these what ifs.
Uh-huh. I just don't.
And Arthur's question is straightforward.
I just don't read cheesecake, man. I don't.
The cover is of a banging woman. It's appealing to you. Let's just say it's a black woman.
Wow.
Appealing to you and everything. you don't have any other clue about this title other than what is stated about the story, would you buy it?
Probably. I just don't buy cheesecake titles, man. I just don't. Personally, I just don't buy a lot of cheese. Cheesecake. I just don't buy cheesecake titles. No, nothing against it, but probably not.
Another staple from the 90s.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I mean, you saw a lot more cheesecake coming out in the 90s
You
and
did.
the mainstay since.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, would you buy WAP #1?
Depends on the story. If I gel with the story, yes, I would.
Does
get
there
it.
really need to be a story?
But not just from the image, because you know how I am. I'm not 100% about the art. It has to be story. If the story is, if there's a story there, I'll give it a try.
Okay. Two more questions, then we're out of here. Now, you touched on the qualifiers a while ago. Do you think it hurts or helps some people to point out their nationality or gender when it comes to their comic book career or the books they put out? So, for example, if somebody happens to be gay, do you think it helps or hurts them to point out in their post, this comic is by a gay writer? Or if it's somebody who's Filipino, hey, holding it down for all the Filipinos out there. Here's my book by a Filipino creator. Do you think these things help or hurt creators?
Do you want my immediate answer for that?
Oh, shit.
Because my immediate answer, based upon my convention experiences and going to different types of shows, don't talk about it. And the reason I say don't talk about it is because they can see you. You're there selling it to them. They know who you are. They can tell what ilk you are at that point. Now, for those who are online only for Kickstarter, it's not going to really help. It's not going to hurt them. It's not going to help. But once you get into that realm of being at a live show, you're going to turn more people off by harping on, hey, I'm this, and this, and my book is about this, and this nationality. It's like, doesn't matter. Tell a good story. Talk about a story. They can see that you're Black. They could look at the characters and they could gather what nationality the characters are. Let the reader have their enjoyment with the story. You don't have to hit them upside the head.
All right, Deon?
Damn. I mean, where's the? You need the air horns for that shit.
I know. I'm like trying to bring it back.
With the nuke bomb. I really can't. I have nothing much left to say after that. I think he's right on target with that. I think the circumstances. There it is. I think if it's part of your branding, sure. If that's part of your branding, like, hey, I'm the Black comic person. I do Black comic books, Black stories, or hey, I'm a Filipino illustrator or writer, and I do Filipino stories and heritage, or if that's part of your branding, sure. But I think it's on an individual basis, and I don't think it for definitely like in person. I don't think it quite helps. And I don't think in general, especially during these kind of times, again, if you're just trying to sell your books to a certain demographic, sure. But I don't think, I think during, especially around these times, it could hinder you if that's not what you're intentionally going for.
My question is, why would you intentionally go for something like that? Because that, to me, and this is going based upon my experience, because I have worked with other artists, and we originally sought out, Amazonia as a quote unquote Black comic, and we saw a reaction that way. We had more African Americans slowly coming in, but whites, Asians, and everything stood away when we advertised it like that. When I told them to stop doing that, and we went more about story based and what was about the story was about, we saw an influx of everybody coming in. So to me, it's not about just branding and marketing to one demographic, because if you do that, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because now you're going to that branding is going to stick. The longer you say it, the more it's going to stick. And then those people who are not comfortable with that will walk away from it. So as soon as you get to the point where you don't focus on that, you will see more and more people come to you, especially in the public eye. Now with online, that's a completely different thing, because now you could actually be like in one group who is primarily like, let's say, a blurred group on Facebook. You could talk about all the stuff that you have in common with them on a more personal level and still promote your book without having to call that book a Black comic. Because why? They know you're Black. They know the characters and stuff are Black because you post the images and everything, and you're talking about the Black experience without hitting them upside the head about it. And then when you go into another group, which is like a general indie comics, group on Facebook, you just talk like you normally would talk about the book in its general aspects without bringing up race.
Go ahead, Deon.
Facts, man. No, I got nothing.
Oh,
Now you
I
speaking
was
some
gonna
truth, man.
say, do some people feel that they have to, just because they're gay, talk about the gay experience, or they're Black, they have to talk about the Black experience? Is that something that is needed, or that, I get people want to share their stories, hey, this is what I went through, but is that needed when it comes to escapism, which is why we come to comics or any form of entertainment? Is it needed?
I want to rephrase that question a bit, if I understand the question correctly.
Okay.
Because you talked about escapism. And to me, when you talk about escapism and you talk about experience, it comes back to point of view. And my answer to that would be like, that point of view will always be needed if you're talking from a cultural standpoint. Like, for example, I forgot what the name of the movie was. It was like one of the first movies that talks about horror in the middle of the hood. I forgot what the name of the movie was.
Talking about Bones?
Tales in the Hood? From
Yeah.
the Hood?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, which one?
Yeah, the one that you mentioned.
Okay, Tales from the Hood.
Tales
They made a
from the
sequel,
Hood,
which was horrible.
Right. But again, horror movies are horror movies. But not everything scares everybody. So if you're approaching it from the point of view of what would scare somebody that normally lives in the hood, I kind of get it for the escapism. But if you're out there just putting it out there just to say, oh, here is this, and it should apply to every universal thing, I got a problem with it. Because now you're no longer talking about a unique circumstance. You're up here trying to apply your personal slant on something as if it was a universal, ideal, and it's not. So as far as culture is concerned, having that point of view, perfectly fine. But when you take that individual point of view and saying that it encompasses everybody, no, it doesn't. Never will.
Damn. Yeah. I pretty much same sentiments. Just depends on the story you're trying to tell, and if it's that story that it is, if it's an inspirational kind of nonfiction, so to speak, sure. If it's something that's supposed to be fantastical, or something that is supposed to be for pure escapism, it may not mesh as well as if you did it for a different kind of book. So I think it depends on the project, and I guess what is the intention of the book itself. But other than that, I have the same sentiments as Joe, for real.
Nah, I agree with y'all. So this is why I like having these discussions, because we break down things, and this all segues into, if we're going with what Joe just said, and we're agreeing with him, and it does depend on the type of story that's being told. Why is it that so many people are so dead set against and want to label these stories, which we've already established a lot of them aren't even reading, social justice warrior comics? Why is this label being forced upon these stories that, again, a lot of them haven't been read by the people criticizing these types of stories? So why is this label, again, being forced upon these stories where people are putting a little bit of themselves in them? And is it dangerous for people to label all of these stories in just one little group?
Well, that also comes back down to fandom. Because again, the people who are claiming that they are social justice warrior comics are the same people who claim that they don't see color, that the story should expound beyond that. And it comes back down to what I said. Point of view when it comes to a particular circumstance within a culture, that's fine. Now, if you want to downplay those stories, then that tells me you got a major problem with the other side of anything. Now, I know the two main groups that are at war with one another, and I have made mention of this here, and I'm going to break out my handy dandy
What does he got?
my visual aid. This nickel right here. That's comics, the whole comic book industry. The head side is the side that doesn't like social justice warrior type stuff. The tail side is pretty much everybody else that are trying to tell their stories and having some input into it. When it comes down to the end of the day, this thing is still a nickel, which means it's still a comic book.
Yep.
No matter what side this coin is on, it's still a comic book. It shouldn't matter one way or the other. So maybe one day you tell the story this way on the tail side and you get something out of it. Other times you tell it the head's way. But when it boils back down to it, it's still a comic book. You shouldn't have any hate for it.
True.
It is what it is. It's a story. Take the story for what it is. And stories always have different points of view depending on who's telling it.
Exactly. I thought you were about to pull out WAP number 1 for a moment.
Someone's drawing it right now.
All right, gentlemen. We've been on here long enough. Any closing remarks about anything we touched on today or we haven't touched on, and you just want to get it out there to the people?
Yeah, watch more of that indie comics guy videos.
Hell yeah. Hey, let's get him 1,000. Let's get him 1,000 subs,
give it to
y'all.
1,000.
Let's get him 1,000 subs.
Watch behind the scenes podcast. Watch. I'm gonna put y'all links in the description of this live. That's what I'm gonna do. That way, if people want to follow these gentlemen, they got knowledge for days. They're showing their age on this one. But
yeah, I'm old. I think I'm the oldest one here.
I don't know. I'm 46. I'm about to be 47.
I feel like the Air Force aged me.
I'm older than you by maybe a couple months. I just turned 47 on August 9th.
Nice.
Hey, that's what's up. I think the Air Force aged me 10 years, but yeah.
See, both of y'all are ex-military.
Yeah. Minor Air Force Base. Oh, that was fun.
Well, so I was lucky. Colorado Springs, the academy.
I'm jelly. I'm jelly, man. That's what's up. That's what's up. But now for real, let's get that indie comics guy 1,000 subs. It was really fun tonight being here with you, Joe, for the first time. Arthur, thanks again for inviting me on. This has been a pleasure and an honor, for real. Thanks to all the listeners who are tuning in.
Same here, and this is much better than doing this off of Facebook Messenger.
Yes, so much easier, right?
It really is. We gotta do this. Yo, we need to do it on Deon's channel. We need to do it on Joe's channel. That way we can spread the love and create some visibility, because y'all got a lot of good points. Y'all got good material. I encourage everybody to check out all their videos, because these gentlemen, they are on top of their game. They're also creators. They're not just fans of this space. They also create books. Deon, you just launched a web comic.
Yes, I just launched my webtoon comic called Children of Asar. It's about basically modern mythology for Egypt, continuing in modern times. World War III has pretty much gotten to the world of destruction, and humanity has sought the help of the ancient Egyptian gods to return and basically help clean up our shit. So it's cool. It's action adventure. And my main artist Mario went ham on this. It's really beautiful. And you can catch it on Webtoons, Children of Asar. You could guys help me out with the contest, like and comment, and help with engagement. And I think you guys will definitely like it.
Okay, we'll put that in the link in the description as well. Joe just finished up. Well, he's about to fulfill his latest Kickstarter for Amazonia 7.
Hey.
Yeah.
So mine should be in the mail probably in 3 months.
No. By the end of this week, no later than next week.
No, that's an inside joke because we had somebody fulfill a campaign, lived in the same city as Joe, and Joe was one of the last people to get it. He's like, dude, you could have just drove up the road and gave it to me. It was crazy.
Jeez.
Are there any Kickstarters or Indiegogos out right now that y'all are checking out?
Shoot, there's a few. There's a few, but I've been getting, stuff in.
Lucky? I'm still waiting on books from 4 years ago.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's like the TNA book that came in was...
see, I told you had WAP #1.
Breaking Fence. Okay.
Yeah, that was one on. And you remember this one here? Wonder Duck #1. George Medina finally came in.
Huh.
He knocked it out quick.
And then the new Sam Vera stuff, which is the There's an Alien in My Toilet issue #2 came out just recently, so I picked up both issues here.
Oh, that's what's up. Flash Delirium LLC Publishing said, "Sub fellas, sorry I can't jump on tonight. Got to be up early AM. No worries, man.
No worries. Yep.
No worries, Chris. Chris is about to launch a Kickstarter. I know we've been saying goodbye for like 10 minutes, but Chris is about to launch a Kickstarter in 2-3 weeks. We all need to bring him on our platforms, our various platforms, help him get this rabbit book hopping. Get it, rabbit?
Yeah,
hopping.
Yeah.
But
y'all gotta hop on that.
Chris, when is the Kickstarter starting? Now, Chris, we write some dark shit. Like, it's kind of like Black Snake Moans meets Django meets 12 Years a Slave. Like, This is a good book.
We all gotta check that joint out. Sounds like he's cooking some
when
good
did you
stuff.
say it's coming?
Next Tuesday.
So
right.
you need to start saying, hey, I know I got Saturdays. You need to talk to Arthur and Deon as far as when they normally broadcast. So I'm at Saturdays at 9. So any Saturday between, I would say, not this weekend. Well, actually, I could do it this weekend. No, you said next Tuesday. So
that's what he's launching.
Anytime next weekend or next weekend, the week after this upcoming Saturday.
Joe did a Kickstarter lunch party. He had somebody host it. He got funded in 1 hour.
About an hour, about 45 minutes to an hour.
Nice, man. Nice.
I'm jelly.
But it's just a matter of just like getting around the right people and getting the right people getting involved with it to help you promote it, and it goes.
That's true. All right, gentlemen. Again, thank y'all. I'm gonna put the links to Joe's channel, to Deon's channel. Chris also has a channel. I'm gonna put the description in there. Hopefully, he'll bless us with his presence next go around. We're gonna spread the love. It's been fun. Thank you, all my chat nerds. See y'all in the next episode.
One more thing.
Oh, there you go.
I need that sound effect that I always liked. The slap in the face.
You really want it?
Yes.
Fine.
He's like, no.
What is it?
to do that. The slap in the face.
I
Slap in the
started this
face?
on one show, and Joe just thinks it's the funniest thing. I'm like,
Oh no.
nah, I am bad at doing live streams. That's why I had y'all checking out the chat because I'm like, wait a minute, where they at? Okay, where is it? Chris is still there. He's like, yeah, next Tuesday it's on Kickstarter.
Game day for
Game day.
sure.
Have that game
Mhm.
face on.
Yeah.
Come out there and be like, hey, we're out here. Where you at?
Right.
We could be the
right.
slaughterhouse of comics. I don't know, but I'll see y'all soon. Heck, I'll be in the chat. One love, peace twice, all that.
All right. Good night, y'all. Peace.